get a good idea of the plot until they gave me peyote. The first 3 pages of that book are written on peyote, and that's where the Indian comes from.
One flew east, one flew west.
There's something about being in a nut house is you're raw. It's worse than being in a penitentiary, because the penitentiary isn't questioning your selfhood, but a nut house does. And I knew that that's where I wanted to set my first novel.
One flew east, one flew west, one flew over the cuckoo's nest.
It's more than a great book. It's the muse. Pound for pound, it's the great American novel, isn't it?
Grandes livros. Estranho no Ninho. Estranho no Ninho foi publicado em 1962. Ken Kesey começara a escrever o livro quando tinha 24 anos, formando que trabalhava à noite na ala de doentes mentais do hospital. O livro leva o leitor ao interior do manicômio estadual de Oregon. O pivô da história é Randall P. McMurphy. Desordeiro, jogador, persuasivo, briguento e desajuizado.
God damn, boy, you're about as big as a mountain. Looked like you might have played some football.
Jack Nicholson fez o papel de McMurphy no filme de maneira brilhante. McMurphy enganara as autoridades fazendo-as pensar que ele era um psicopata a fim de ser transferido da cadeia para onde achava que ficaria tranquilo. O hospício. Estranho no Ninho é uma artesanal história da batalha de McMurphy contra a enfermeira-chefe e a repressiva sociedade que ela representa.
Patients aren't allowed in the nurses' station.
Well, I just wanted to turn...
When you're outside, we'll discuss whatever problem you have, okay? The patients are not allowed in the nurses' station.
O livro tornou-se logo clássico da literatura americana e o filme ainda continua popular. Como todo grande livro, Estranho no Ninho ressoa individualmente em cada leitor.
Cuckoo's Nest fit all the themes and all the ideas of my generation growing up. I mean, it's really about the individual versus an institution. A sane individual versus a crazy institution.
McMurphy is, to a certain extent, the classic man against the machine character, which we see quite often in American literature.
Not long time ago, I still lived in a communist country, and I read the book, and this is about society I lived in. We were living there behind the barbed wire, and the whole life of everybody was run by hundreds or thousands of big nurses, controlling our lives.
And what Keyes' book is about, really, is not mental hospitals. What it's about is the fear that this primeval, wild, unsocialized, anti-family form of masculinity is going to be stamped out by the force of asexual women and institutions and society who want men to become grown-ups.
Como Kesey descreveu no livro, a ala é descrita como mundo de gibi com figuras delineadas em preto esbarrando numa história boba. Só que Kesey os conheceu. Os personagens são baseados em pessoas reais, com uma exceção. Randall McMurphy.
It's an old Western story. The American hero that sacrifices his life for his buddies. He's an empty place that was already there for us to fill in. It's why I've always been glad that I haven't seen the movie, because Jack Nicholson is powerful enough, he would have filled in that area in my mind.
Oh, I was identifying very much Kankisi with McMurphy. You smell through the book that this is his dream about himself.
Kesey sonhou muito consigo mesmo. Em 1964, ele e seus colegas conceberam uma das primeiras comunidades psicodélicas dos anos 60, a Merry Pranksters. Depois, outro sonho, o de comprar um ônibus escolar usado e pintá-lo todo. Ele se chamava Furter. Os Pranksters bolaram uma expressão no início dos anos 60. Tá viajando? Isso definiu uma certa consciência para muitos daquela geração.
When you realize the interconnectedness of all stuff, you realize that it's all the bus and you can never get off. But you have to realize that. Otherwise, you're not on the bus. I am on the bus.
Jerry Garcia e o Grateful Dead estavam por dentro. O presidente Lyndon Johnson estava por fora.
He still seek no wider war.
O Vietnã estava longe do alcance do ônibus. O ácido lisérgico, o LSD, estava por dentro. O escritor Tom Wolfe estava por fora, mas mesmo assim, alguns anos depois, escreveu um grande livro sobre o ônibus, sobre a lendária viagem através do país, de ácido, The Electric Cool Aid Acid Test. Tudo sobre como Ken Kesey e os Merry Pranksters se tornaram o para-raios e como trovejaram sobre a costa oeste nos psicodélicos anos 60. O ônibus, que se chamava Furter, não cai mais na estrada. Ainda assim, espantosamente, um terço de século depois, estão remontando o ônibus, o Furter 2. Na verdade, eles nunca largaram a estrada. Ken Kesey? Os Merry Pranksters dos anos 60? Ainda estão por aí, viajando para um concerto em São Francisco. Convidados para aparecerem como uma cápsula do tempo.
When's the last time you changed your wires, George?
Never. Oh, there we could have wire breakdown. Boy, that's an obvious one.
It's like the Unfinished Symphony. Every so often they resurrect the ghosts of Haydn and Mozart and Vivaldi to help work on the Unfinished Symphony. That's why it never gets done. The past is still working on the present.
O fato de Kesey estar andando e falando é extraordinário. Semanas antes, eles sofreram um derrame. Mas com a ajuda de um novo remédio e com sua constituição física, teve apenas pequenas sequelas.
From here on down, it's all uphill.
Trucking like the doodah man once told me, you got to pay your hand sometimes because it's worth a dime.
Alguns dos melhores escritores criaram grandes livros apresentando a história de um ponto de vista original. Um Estranho no Ninho é frequentemente elogiado por seu incomum ponto de vista. Lendo o livro, vemos a ala psiquiátrica como algo perigoso, assustador, e é a visão de um índio alienado, o chefe Bromden.
Chief Bromden. Ken decided to use Bromden's point of view, which then allowed him to create the fog. It allowed him to create the sort of strange point of view that Bromden has, and lets Bromden move. Using a first-person narrator who starts off delusional and ends up clear, I think is, as far as I know, new in American literature anyway.
O índio fora diagnosticado como esquizofrênico.
It's a chemical defect in his brain. If the level of stress goes up very high, the brain chemistry goes wild, and it becomes something like an acid trip. Everything outside yourself becomes so intense and so threatening that you pull back chemically and focus your attention only on your thoughts and what's going on inside your brain. That's what schizophrenia is.
Na mente do chefe Bromden, o mundo é dominado por um grupo secreto, todo-poderoso, onividente, o Combine. Eles instalaram máquinas diabólicas no local, instalaram ocultos aparelhos de espionagem, inclusive no cabo de sua vassoura.
A ward is a factory for the Combine. It's for fixing up mistakes made in the neighborhoods and in the schools and in the churches the hospital is. When a completed product goes back out into society, all fixed up good as new, better than new sometimes, it brings joy to the big nurse's heart. Something that came in all twisted different is now a functioning, adjusted component, a credit to the whole outfit and a marvel to behold. It's gonna burn me just that way, finally telling about all this, about the hospital and her and the guys, and about McMurphy. I've been silent so long now it's gonna roar out of me like floodwaters, but it's the truth, even if it didn't happen.
Névoa e bruma vagueiam pelas páginas do texto de Casey. Talvez seja o resultado de crescer junto às montanhas costeiras do Oregon.
Those kids that boiled rocks and drunk the water to see if you got the essence, and I knew magic and magnetism. Magic is there like kites and fireworks and sunsets.
Com 6 anos, o herói favorito de Casey não era o Superman. Ele admirava o mágico Capitão Marvel.
Shalam! Lightning comes down. There in the powder puff of lightning stands Captain Marvel. The word was important, more important than the hero. Shazam! And it was preparing our generation to go to the moon, to do stuff that had never been done before. A wonderful thing. And Shazam, is, to everybody I know, is still has that power, that word that once you say it, Shazam, boom, boom, there you are. Shazam!
Ike for president, Ike for president. You like Ike, I like Ike. Everybody likes Ike for president.
Quando Casey terminou o colégio, no início dos anos 50, a era Eisenhower dominava o país. O homem da organização, mente pronta para a ação.
I believe in the future of the United States of America.
Comerciais da época refletem uma cultura americana que agora parece alienígena.
These boys greet their dad as though they are genuinely glad to see him. The women of this family seem to feel that they owe it to the men of the family to look relaxed, rested, and attractive at dinner time.
The kitchen today is like a factory in a lot of ways.
Golly, I'm so impressed.
A Câmara do Comércio possuía uma força alimentada pelo que Casey descreveria depois como Combine.
Whether it's cigarettes or something else you have to sell.
Here, nearly 5,000 new homes per year rise out of an area that was only yesterday swamp.
When the Europeans landed and looked out across this land, it was mysterious and full of strange spirits, and who knew what animals, and that was a terror that civilization hadn't felt in a long time. A new, huge land, and that terror is still here.
I don't think I ever will fit in, not here. I'm different from the guys in this town.
Pick out the most popular boys and girls in school and keep an eye on them.
The higher up you go in America, the greater the terror.
Labor and management must continue to increase the production of better goods at lower prices so that more people will be able to buy the things that make life easier and happier for all of us.
You know that the only thing that will break through this terror is glory or wonder or something that shakes you so that you come to your senses, at least for a moment. Shalam!
Em 1957, Casey formou-se na Universidade do Oregon. Após trabalhar durante um ano, recebeu uma bolsa de estudos em Stanford. Foi onde conheceu um aluno de psicologia, Vic Lovell. Um Estranho no Ninho é dedicado a ele.
It was a time of great conformity. It was a very conventional time. And this, in particular, was a very conventional university. And Ken was kind of a country guy from Oregon.
Casey trabalhava à noite numa ala para doentes mentais no Hospital para Veteranos de Guerra. O salário era baixo, mas tinha tempo para escrever.
Ken was also very interested in the patients. There was a new kind of thing coming up in psychiatry that you should respect people who were in altered states or having psychotic episodes. You should listen to them. You should try to talk to them on their own terms.
Casey os ouvia, falava com eles. Passava horas explorando suas mentes torturadas. Enquanto conversava, desenhava. Muitos dos personagens do livro são baseados naqueles pacientes.
And I could see that the guys that were crazy knew something that the doctors and nurses didn't know. The doctors and nurses had sealed their consciousness off from it, and these guys, their armor had been shattered.
Os tratamentos hospitalares que Casey descrevia como a terapia em grupo escandalizavam os leitores.
I killed a cat once. Oh, God. I stoned it to death, and I blamed it on my neighbor.
A terapia da enfermeira Ratched visava mais controlá-los do que confortá-los.
I robbed a cash register at the service station once.
I tried to take my little sister to bed one time.
It was better than she'd dreamed. They were all shouting out to one another, going further and further, no way of stopping.
I did take my little sister to bed.
Telling things that wouldn't ever let them look one another in the eye again.
I stoned it to death, and
I took my brother to bed.
I broke my dad. I'm tired.
Then old Pete was on his feet.
I'm tired.
A strong, angry copper tone to his voice that no one had ever heard before. Everyone hushed. They were somehow shamed. It was as if he had suddenly said something that was real and true and important, and it had put all their childish hollering to shame. She forgot the black boys didn't hold any control over people like Pete. Pete's been a chronic all his life.
Tired.
But one good thing. Being simple like that put him out of the clutch of the Combine.
I was born dead.
His voice lost its copper strength and became strained and urgent. Pete never tried anything like that again, and he never will. He's finished with that. It's like an old clock that won't tell time, but won't stop neither. With the hands bent out of shape, and the face bare of numbers, and the alarm bell rusted silent. An old, worthless clock that just keeps ticking and cuckooing without meaning nothing.
Cuckoo's Nest had an enormous effect. It gave voice. It gave life. to a basic distrust of the way in which psychiatry was being used for society's purposes rather than for the purposes of the people who had mental illness.
Kesey descreveu outros tratamentos em seu livro, tratamentos que aterrorizavam o chefe Bromden. A terapia de choque era amplamente usada nos anos 40. Choques aplicados diretamente no cérebro. Parecia eficaz para certas doenças, como profundas depressões. A enfermeira Ratched usou-a a seu modo como uma ferramenta de controle e disciplina.
You haven't had the pleasure. Pity. An experience no human should be without.
Kesey diz que uma noite um amigo fez isso com ele. Ele queria sentir para poder descrever.
You pay for the service with brain cells instead of money, and everyone has simply billions of brain cells. You won't miss a few. Brain burning. It's as if the jolt sets off a wild carnival wheel of images, emotions, memories. Pay the man for another spin, son. Pay the man.
Back in my training in the early 60s, yeah, we gave shock treatment. Not much. I gave it a few times. It was used primarily at that time as a treatment for agitated depression. It worked more quickly than the drugs we had then. It works more quickly than the drugs we have now. It left me squeamish. The brain is much too delicate and much too mysterious for us to mess with.
Estranho no Ninho contribuiu para um movimento nacional nos anos 60 contra o sistema de hospitais amplos e estatais. De repente, os pacientes tiveram mais direitos. A população dos hospitais diminuía drasticamente.
Cuckoo's Nest came out in 62. By 64, I was in Denver, snatching people off the elevator to keep them out of mental hospitals. Firmly convinced, with Kesey, that if we could just close down the hospitals, if we could just keep people out, we would produce this great sanity. A lot of us believed that.
Livros como Estranho no Ninho e o furor público que criaram agiram como despovoadores de hospitais estatais. Mais importante, causaram grande impacto no tratamento das doenças mentais.
The drugs like Thorazine and Mellaril and Stelazine and Haldol do have their side effects, but they worked well enough so that people could be treated outside the hospital, so that hospitalization was no longer a lifetime thing. They could go home.
Por volta de 1960, as novas drogas acalmavam os pacientes. Ao mesmo tempo, outras drogas estavam à beira de causar um maior impacto em nossa sociedade. Drogas secretas de um programa de governo para desenvolver novas armas. Estranhas substâncias eram testadas no mesmo hospital onde Kesey trabalhara. Médicos do governo ofereceram a ele $75 para cada teste com certo comprimido.
Every Tuesday I'd go in there about 8:30 in the morning, and these doctors would give me some stuff, and they wouldn't tell you what. I had never drunk beer before then. I'm completely all-American. They put me in this room and locked the door, presumably to keep the nuts from coming in or me from getting out. I wasn't sure what. But one little window up there in the door with chicken wire across it. And I'm really ripped, I think, on psilocybin or one of those JB380s. All these things are just numbers at that time. LSD-25.
Os pesquisadores catalogavam os efeitos dos novos psicotrópicos. O objetivo era criar uma droga que pudesse ser usada como uma temível arma a ser adicionada à água e comida. para incapacitar o inimigo.
This program had been initiated and was being run by the CIA. And this is the great irony of the 60s, that the psychedelic drugs, which created the kinds of changes of consciousness and perceptions of the world that drove the 60s, was distributed by the CIA. So pretty soon, one way or another, these drugs found their way out of the hospital and into the counterculture. It blew our minds. It took us into a world which was unlike any world that we had ever been in.
Como o interesse se espalhava, laboratórios clandestinos começaram a importar ou produzir drogas psicodélicas. Imagens veiculadas pela mídia de São Francisco mostravam barbas, cabelos compridos, olhos vagos e amor livre.
A thing that people overlook about us is we were all college graduates. We were in Stanford and graduate programs. Babs is a captain in the Marines. And we had a life and families, and we had some idea what existentialism was about, and the dead-end, bleak chasm you're standing there looking into of existentialism. You begin to deal with it by reaching across the chasm.
Casey tinha uma personalidade viva e magnética, atraía as crianças da era Eisenhower para um novo mundo bastante diferente.
He was the famous author, he was the guy with the energy, he was the guy with the ideas, the imagination, the daring, you know.
Muitos migrariam para a propriedade de Casey próxima a La Honda, na Califórnia, para viajar com seu líder.
You go on a trip, you take a trip, you're tripping, you go somewhere. You leave who you are regularly and go somewhere else. And with any luck, you kind of make it back.
Na primavera de 1964, Casey estava sonhando de novo com uma viagem real no ônibus chamado Furter. Caindo na estrada. Atravessando o país. Imaginem só, 1964 deve ter sido um estranho objeto não identificado atravessando a América. Foi o avô psicodélico de todos os trailers, com eletricidade, camas, fogão e uma geladeira. Uma geladeira cheia de jarras de suco de laranja elétrico, temperado com LSD. Em 1964 ainda era legal. Os Merry Pranksters alternavam entre tomar ácido e gravar o que planejavam, um filme mais longo sobre sua viagem. Bem, as duas atividades se misturavam muito.
Sometimes the tape recorder was running a little slow, so you hear the tapes back and everybody's, and sometimes the generator's running too fast. Hey, Cassidy, you're driving way too fast. Slow down, will you?
Neil Cassidy era o motorista do Furter. Cassidy, o lendário e fantástico Pateta. O centro das atenções em vários livros escritos sobre a geração beat dos anos 50. Neil vivia de bicos meio sacanas que pareciam quase sempre sobrenaturais.
Cassidy, he was the most important thing that ever happened to me. Once you see him, once you've been around Cassidy, you realize this is a force of nature beyond anything you could ever imagine before. And you got to remember, when you're going around like this, you can always tell what the fear is by the feeling in the belly, feeling in the belly.
Neil Cassidy foi o animal desgarrado que Casey tinha em mente quando criou Randall McMurphy. Cassidy leu depois o livro, reconheceu-se, foi conhecer o autor e estava agora viajando dirigindo o ônibus.
He would take you on his trip, and a lot of people didn't survive it, but they came back nuts.
Cassidy uniu-se aos outros bebendo suco de laranja com ácido e engoliu muitos outros psicotrópicos. Ainda assim, ele conseguiu dirigir com segurança através do país, trazendo de volta os pranksters. Naquele verão, Casey encontrou sua alma gêmea no jovem guitarrista Jerry Garcia, que formaram uma banda chamada Grateful Dead.
I'm the first Deadhead. I'm the original Deadhead. We were involved in a movement that's still traveling forward, and a lot of it comes from Garcia. He was a powerful man.
O LSD era novo, misterioso. Seu uso limitava-se a poucos. Os Merry Pranksters sonhavam a definitiva brincadeira, organizando gratuitos happenings psicodélicos. Um desafio para o público entrar nessa de refresco misturado com ácido e dançar Grateful Dead. Eles os chamavam de testes de ácido, um jogo de palavras que deu luz à ideia para o título do best-seller sobre Ken Kesey e os anos 60.
The Kool-Aid on the right is for the kids. The Kool-Aid on the left is the electric Kool-Aid. Now let's do that again. The Kool-Aid on the right is for the kids. But people would be dancing for 3 hours to the Grateful Dead, and they were just looking for something wet. And wet was about 300 mics a swallow, and people started to melt down. They're just all melting. And this young girl starts to flip out. And into everybody's melting DNA comes, who cares? Who cares, Roy? And I crawled to a mic. I says, help, some sister is ungluing, and she wants to know who cares. A lot of us care. And let's find her and glue her together quick. And meanwhile, all the while, it's still going on. Who cares? And we all joined hands. And she turned into Jewels and Light. And we turned into Jewels and Light. And I got it. That was when I passed the acid test.
Em 1966, as leis da Califórnia proibiram o LSD. Foi uma derrota para Kesey e outros que defendiam o potencial da droga. Para muitos, acenderam uma luz espiritual, mas para alguns, foi um mundo de terror, uma barca furada.
What's happened is both schizophrenia and LSD and other hallucinogens poison the brain's ability to tell whether impulses are coming from outside, out there in reality, or are coming from inside, from the workings of your own mind.
Kesey saboreava seu papel de para-raios, atraindo atenção para a psicodélica geração dos anos 60. Mas também começou a atrair a atenção da lei. Em 1965, Ken Kesey foi preso por posse de maconha, não de LSD, e passou 5 meses na cadeia. Quando foi solto, uniu sua família e deixou a Califórnia, voltando para a fazenda no Oregon, onde até então vivera. 3 décadas depois, quando olha para seus desenhos da cadeia, volta tudo.
It's like suddenly, clang, the doors are there again. You're back in jail. And the thing jail teaches you is you want to get out. Boy, I wanted out so much. Not just to see my family. I just wanted out amongst the flowers and the birds and the sun.
Ele diz que o tempo na prisão o ensinou algumas coisas sobre a natureza humana, mas suas crenças básicas não mudaram. Ele continua argumentando que a experiência psicodélica, qualquer que seja a origem, é boa para a alma. Seu desafio para a sociedade: questionar a realidade.
And the American dream is psychedelic. The cuckoo's nest charm, I think, goes to this thing of tearing away the fabric of what we've been told is reality and seeing that through that fabric is something far more real. It's raw and it's harsh on you. It gives you anguish to see it. But when you do, then somehow you are moving a little farther up this ladder into the smoke.
Estranho no Ninho vendeu mais de 7 milhões de cópias no mundo todo. Surpreendentemente, Hollywood parecia muito relutante em filmá-lo. Em 1975, 13 anos após sua publicação, as câmeras finalmente rodaram o projeto.
Do you want me to explain? I can't explain Hollywood's, reluctance to do many good things. I mean, don't put that on me. But in any case, they clearly were not ready to finance a book about a half-breed in an insane asylum. That it just didn't make sense. And as usual, it took some people with real passion and belief and some mavericks to get it going.
Deles foi o produtor independente Saul Zaentz.
As someone at a studio once told me, pictures in mental institutions don't make money. They have all those great one-liners that end all conversations.
Zaentz investiu a maior parte do dinheiro para fazer o filme dirigido por Milos Forman. Forman ganhara reputação em seu país natal, a Tchecoslováquia, por realizar filmes realistas que misturavam tragédia e humor.
Everyone in favor of changing the schedule, please raise your hand.
Okay, I want to see the hands. Come on. Which one of you nuts has got any guts?
Forman fez uma inspirada escolha quando chamou Louise Fletcher para o papel da enfermeira Ratched.
Milos was constantly saying, is it natural? Is it natural? And he wanted more than anything for it to be as natural as real life. Newsreel, if you will. Newsreel, real.
I only count 9 votes, Mr. McMurphy.
He only counts 9. Only 9. It's a landslide.
There are 18 patients on this ward, Mr. McMurphy, and you have to have a majority to change ward policy. So you gentlemen can put your hands down now.
O livro possui momentos de forte realismo, mas o leitor vai captando o surreal quadro do hospital visualizado por Ken Kesey, muito diferente do filme de Forman.
The light from the nurse's station throws his shadow on the dorm wall, big as an elephant. It gets smaller as he walks to the dorm door and looks in. That's right, baby, sleep tight. Twists a knob, and the whole floor goes to slipping down away from him, standing in the door, lowering into the building like a platform in a grain elevator. The only sound I hear is the guy's breathing and that drumming under us getting louder the farther down we go. I know already what will happen. Somebody will drag me out of the fog and we'll be back on the ward and there won't be a sign of what went on tonight. And if I was fool enough to try to tell somebody about it, they'd say, "Idiot, you just had a nightmare." Things as crazy as a big machine room down in the bowels of a dam where people get cut up by robot workers don't exist. But if they don't exist, how can a man see them?
It worked in the book. Sure, it worked in the book, but what works in a book doesn't always work in the movie. They're very different mediums. I was impressed with how faithful they were to the book, despite the change in point of view, despite the fact that the two symbolic figures became real people in the movie.
Após a publicação do livro, algumas práticas psiquiátricas, como o eletrochoque, tinham mudado ou cessado totalmente. Mas no meio dos anos 70, quando o filme foi realizado, a geração dos anos 60 também mudara, envelhecera, ficara mais conservadora.
At 27, I loved McMurphy. Hated Nurse Ratched. Bought completely into Keyes' vision. 10 or 12 years later, when I read the book again, after I'd seen the movie, I couldn't understand. I hated McMurphy, and I felt great sympathy for Nurse Ratched. This was after 12 years of working with psychopaths. I knew just what Nurse Ratched was going through.
O recuo inicial contra os métodos das instituições psiquiátricas atingiu seu apogeu e o pêndulo começou a balançar de volta. A terapia de choque teve um pequeno renascimento. Não é amplamente usada, mas muitos psiquiatras acham que este método tem algum mérito.
Shock treatment is still the quickest way of getting people out of an agitated depression. It is still used. Not much, but it's used now more than it was 10 years ago.
All right?
Ken Kesey descreveu outro tratamento. Após McMurphy tentar matar a enfermeira Ratched, ela o passa para um cirurgião cerebral para uma lobotomia, como um castigo final. Lobotomia, o maior horror na psiquiatria. Procedimento comum nos anos 40. Uma longa ferramenta, parecida com um furador de gelo, era introduzida no cérebro através da cavidade ocular, acima do olho, nos lobos frontais, a fim de desconectar a rede celular. De vez em quando funcionava. As lobotomias acalmavam os piores casos nas alas ocultas dos hospícios. Houve mais de 5.000 operações desse tipo em 1949, um recorde para o furador de gelo e a sonda. Agora, até se fala na sua volta. Médicos em Harvard sugeriram novas pesquisas em técnicas de alteração mental por cirurgia, já que suas habilidades e tecnologia estão muito mais avançadas. Será uma difícil venda na comunidade médica.
I wouldn't volunteer for it, and I wouldn't recommend you do so. It is a horrifying sight to see people whose whole personality, whose whole will, whose whole sense of social appropriateness has been taken away from them.
No final de Um Estranho no Ninho, o chefe percebe que deve fazer algo por seu amigo McMurphy.
I wouldn't leave you here this way.
McMurphy levara o chefe de volta à sanidade, salvara sua vida. Agora, após ter visto o que o hospital fizera com McMurphy, retalhando seu cérebro com um furador de gelo, o chefe podia ajudá-lo, acabando com ele. Um Estranho no Ninho e outros livros ajudaram no movimento para esvaziar manicômios estaduais por todo o país. Desde 1960, o número de pacientes caiu 87%. Muitos dos ex-residentes viraram sem-teto, vagando pelas ruas ou nas prisões. A avançada meia-idade assumiu os Merry Pranksters. Viraram crianças crescidas. Muitos uniram-se a eles para o concerto em São Francisco.
What's happening is there's a battle going on for attention. I've always maintained that audience is currency. You give me enough audience, I'll make a living.
Gee, this is a guy who can get away with being himself, with anybody, anywhere, no matter what. And maybe we can all do that.
I think Ken probably found other things more exciting than writing. When you get pretty far out there on drugs and rock and roll, which is a very hedonistic experience, a very hedonistic combination, you know, it's hard to kind of say, oh, God, I have to go sit at the typewriter again. And
my dad taught me a really important thing, that good writing ain't necessarily good reading. That to appeal to somebody from a writer's standpoint somehow separates you from them.
Ken ficou fascinado por um editor de filmes computadorizado e o levou para a fazenda.
Check this over here. It puts the capabilities that used to only belong to New York and Hollywood. People are able to do stuff that they would only have been able to dream about before the really good stuff happened.
Ken Kesey ignora Hollywood até onde pode. Ainda está magoado por ter sido despedido da função de roteirista pelos produtores do filme. Estima-se que 100 milhões de pessoas assistiram o popular filme. Kesey ficou de fora.
During the depositions, these two LA lawyers were sitting there, one of them puffy and sullen, and the other one skinny and fierce. They said, I bet you'll be the first in line to see that movie. I said, I swear to God, I'll never see that movie. And when you swear to God in front of a lawyer, you better damn well keep your word, or you're going to run into him in hell.
Lately, it do occur to me what a glorious trip it still do